Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I bid you welcome as your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of October, which means Halloween is right around the corner, which also means the end of Codo Cinema Horror Month. So, to close out Codo Cinema Horror Month, my brother Mike and we are going to talk about Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Oh, jolly! I'm so excited to talk about Walter Gromit.
Mike is jolly, all right? Yes, you heard that right, folks. We are going to talk about Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And actually, funny enough, this will be my third Wallace and Gromit film that I'm going to talk about on the podcast, but also the first ever full-length feature film in the Wallace and Gromit franchise.
Very nice.
Yep. So, Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit is a 2005 animated comedy film produced by DreamWorks Animation and Aardman Animations. It is the second feature-length film by Aardman after Chicken Run, which came out in 2000. Plus, this is the fourth installment in the Wallace and Gromit franchise and the first to be feature-length film, and is directed by Nick Park and Steve Box. Written by Park and Box, including Mark Burton and Bob Baker. The movie is a parody of classic monster movies. The film centers on good-natured yet eccentric inventor Wallace and his intelligent but mute dog Gromit in their latest venture as pest control agents. They come to the rescue of their town, which is plagued by rabbits, before the annual giant vegetable competition. However, the duo soon find themselves battling a giant rabbit, which is consuming the town's crops. Now, the film has a cast, which includes Peter Sallis, Ralph Fiennes, Helena Bonham Carter, and Peter Kay. Now, that sounds like a good cast to me.
It kind of does. And of course, this movie came out in 2005 and it's celebrating its 20th anniversary.
That is right. I mean, it was released on September 4th, 2005 in Sydney, Australia, and it was released on October 7th, 2005 in the United States and October 14th, 2005 in the United Kingdom. Yes, this movie is celebrating its 20th anniversary.
We actually saw this movie back in 2005 when we were little.
Yes. Mike and I actually saw this movie back in 2005, and I'll be honest, it was a fun movie.
And probably the first stop motion film that we saw in theaters.
That is absolutely true. Although this is clay animation, but yes, it is a stop motion animated film as well. Plus, Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit became the became the first stop motion animated movie. It became the first stop motion animated feature film to win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film.
Well, also the second DreamWorks animation film to win an Oscar after Shrek.
Plus, this is also the third Wallace and Gromit film overall where it won an Oscar. So, just to keep track of the record, Wallace and Gromit, The Wrong Trousers, and Wallace and Gromit, A Close Shave, won 2 Oscars back in the 90s for Best Animated Short. Now, for Best Animated Feature Film, that went to Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So, Wallace and Gromit as a whole won 3 Oscars.
Well, also, this film beats out another stop motion animated film.
That is true. That would be Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, which also came out the same year. And also, funny enough, Helena Bonham Carter was also in that movie playing the Corpse Bride.
Yep.
So, anyway, So as I mentioned, following the release of Chicken Run in 2000, DreamWorks and Aardman announced their next co-productions, The Tortoise and the Hare, and a feature-length Wallace and Gromit film. However, the former was abandoned due to script issues, while the latter officially began production in September of 2003. And during production, Park was sent several notes by DreamWorks requesting to make changes to the film to appeal more to a contemporary American audiences, which stressed him out, to be quite honest.
This is very difficult to make.
To be honest, because this is basically part UK, part US made film.
But also claymation.
Right.
It's very difficult to make a film when it comes to claymation films.
I mean, claymation films, like, they take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and effort to put together.
Like Wallace Gromit, A Grand Day Out, for example. Now, that short film came out in the late 80s.
Right, 1989. That was like their first ever Wallace and Gromit film.
And that film also saved a cheese factory. Is that right?
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true, because there is a scene in that short film where Wallace and Gromit tried a piece of cheese on a cracker on the moon. Yes, because there is like an old tale that you tell your kids that the moon is made of cheese.
Yes, even Wallace tried out the moon that is made out of cheese.
And he thought it was Wensleydale.
Wensleydale,
which is actually the name of the cheese, which is actually the cheese factory, which is actually the cheese factory, right?
So
that one bit of dialogue helped save the cheese factory.
So it literally skyrocketed, right?
Yep, and the sales for that went through the roof.
So it made history.
That is right. That is right. I mean, oh man, there's even references to cheese in basically all the Wallace and Gromit films.
Wow.
They're short films, and of course there are two other feature films, because just recently last year, Wallace and Gromit came out with another feature with another because about a year later, Wallace and Gromit came out with another feature film titled Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul,
which is the second film that came out this time on Netflix, to which they reunite with this character named Feathers McGraw.
Yes, Feathers McGraw, the Penguin.
Obviously, the best Wallace and Gromit villain.
That is absolutely true, but we do have another Wallace and Gromit villain in The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and that will be Victor Codoman. Before we go further into the movie, to anybody who's new to the podcast, welcome to Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. And if you are listening to this on Spotify and Podbean, don't forget to hit the follow button as well. Okay, now let's get back to the movie. So, now I mentioned that there was a bit of a difficult process for the movie. Well, besides putting the movie together, but also Nick Park being sent notes, right, by DreamWorks requesting to make changes to the film to appeal more to contemporary American audiences. Now, I found something about that part. Now, that was prior to separate test screenings with British and American audiences, including children on both sides, because he adjusted the character's speech for American audiences. Park was often sent notes from DreamWorks which stressed him out. He recalled one note that Wallace's car should be trendier, which he disagreed with because he felt making things look old-fashioned made it look more ironic.
Why is that?
I don't know. That's it. To me, it sounds it sounds a bit vague, so to say in my personal opinion. But I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. This is basically Aardman Animations collaborating with DreamWorks, because DreamWorks is an American film company. Don't forget.
This is Aardman's second collaboration with DreamWorks following following the box office success of Chicken Run. And speaking of box office, this movie was a box office disappointment in the US by DreamWorks Animation. It was more commercially successful internationally.
So the overall box office for this movie was 192.7 million on a $30 million budget. Now, overall worldwide, it was a box office success worldwide, but not so much in the US for some reason.
The same could be said with Flushed Away movie, to which that movie came out in 2006.
Right.
The third DreamWorks animated film and the third animated film to collaborate with DreamWorks, but also the last time.
Right. Now, going back to the box office, Wallace Gromit The Curse of the Rare Rabbit opened in 3,645 cinemas and had an opening weekend gross of $16 million, putting it at number one for that weekend. During its second weekend, it came in at number two, just $200,000 behind The Fog.
To which that movie came out in 2005.
Right. The Curse of the Rare Rabbit grossed 192.6 million at the box office, of which 56.1 million was from the US. And as of January 2023, it is the second highest grossing stop motion animated film of all time behind Aardman's first feature film, Chicken Run, and it has a 95% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's a good score.
I believe that's a good score. Plus, Metacritic gave a weighted average score of 87 out of 100. So that's still pretty good. 87 out of 100. So seems like a lot of people really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this movie too, but also funny too.
I mean, this movie's got this movie's got some laughs, but also knowing the fact that this is obviously poking fun of the of the horror movie genre too.
Yes, hammered horror films.
But also, the Wolfman, because you have a title that says Curse of the Rare Rabbit. Were rabbit, right?
Yeah.
What does that remind you of?
The Wolfman.
Right. Werewolf, right?
Which is also part of the part of the Universal Classic Monsters.
Yeah, and basically, funny enough, around that time, but also funny enough, around that time, DreamWorks did an acquisition with NBC Universal and sometime in the late 2010s, right?
Yes, but DreamWorks also collaborated with two different studios before Universal.
So Paramount and 20th Century Fox.
Yes.
But of course, it's obviously now they're basically partnering up with Universal now. So I guess you could say this is kind of technically a Universal film, partially, but DreamWorks did it first.
This is from DreamWorks Pictures, and this is also the final DreamWorks animation film to be distributed by DreamWorks Pictures, as the studio spun off as an independent studio in 2004 until its acquisition by Comcast and NBC Universal in 2016.
But they also did Flush Away too.
They were able to do it back in 2006.
Right. So anyway, let's talk. So anyway, just to finish off with the production, the vehicle that Wallace drives in the movie. It's an Austin A35 van, and in collaboration with Aardman in the spring of 2005, a road-going replica of the model was created by brothers Mark and David Army, founders of the International Austin A30-A35 Register. For promotional purposes, in a 500 man-hour, customization, an original 1964 van received a full body restoration before being dented and distressed to perfectly replicate the model van used in the film. The official color of the van is Preston Green, named in honor of Nick Park's hometown. The name was chosen by art director Mark Army.
Ah, very interesting.
And this is the first film where we get introduced to the van. Because in the previous shorts, because in the short films that followed, just to give you background, Wallace and Gromit, they had a motorcycle and a sidecar, but But of course, but that's the only vehicle they had, and they used that in Wallace and Gromit, a close shave.
Well, shave, huh?
Yep. And it's also funny too, and this will definitely segue into the actual breakdown of this movie. So we're gonna break down this movie. So we're gonna break down this movie. Um
Yep, here we go.
so we're gonna break down this movie. So anyway, this is gonna segue because we're gonna break down this movie because in this movie, Wallace and Gromit, like they are inventors, but they do like different jobs to like make the money, to pay for their mortgage, right? But in the first short film that they did, they are inventors, but they didn't have any money problems. So in that first short film, they built a rocket to the moon to try some of that moon cheese. And then in the second movie, when Wallace is in debt, he he invented trousers to which he had to capture Feathers McGraw, to which he got the reward money for to pay off all their debts. And then their other job that they did was they're basically window washing guys who wash windows, right?
Up until Preston the dog came in,
Right,
along with Shaun the sheep.
right. And then now in this movie, they're basically pest control they're basically pest control exterminators or agents, so to say. So they basically have different jobs to just to make up the mortgage, right?
Yep.
So this will definitely segue into this will definitely segue into this movie. So anyway, obviously the movie opens up with pictures, right?
Yeah, the pictures while the credits was while rolling in the credits.
Right, and the music that's being played in the background is by Julian Knott, who has composed basically all of the Wallace and Gromit projects.
You also got Hans Zimmer producing the score.
That is actually true because around that time, Hans Zimmer was also composing music for DreamWorks, but he was also a music producer on this movie. And actually, here's a little bit of trivia for you. Julian Knott is not the only composer composing the music.
He's not?
No, he's not the only composer, but he receives the sole credits for the whole movie. So, the score was produced by Hans Zimmer, with additional music provided by Rupert Gregson Williams, James Dooley, Lorne Boff, who would later go on to co-composed with Julian Knott on Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and Alistair King. So there were, let's see, one, two, three, four. So you got Rupert Gregson Williams, James Dooley, Lorne Boff, and Alistair King. So you have 4 additional composers providing additional music to Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
And you also, or five if you count Hans Zimmer.
Well, that's true, but Hans Zimmer was the music producer.
And that same year, he would compose Batman Begins.
That is absolutely true. So there were 4 additional composers who collaborated with Julian Knott for Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So anyway, we get the Wallace and Gromit theme, which is actually titled "A Grand Day Out," but is obviously the Wallace and Gromit theme, which is going on while the camera is panning on the pictures, right? We see like Wallace and Gromit through their younger days.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we get the film's title, Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, where it transitions to an organ, which transitions to an organ feel, which is basically the organ going on in the background.
Yep.
Giving us a haunting vibe.
Yep.
Of what to expect from this movie.
Yep. It was dark. The movie opened up in a darker fashion.
That is right. So anyway, Wallace and Gromit get a call from one of their neighbors after it was discovered that a rabbit was in the garden, right?
It wasn't the were-rabbit, right?
Nope, it wasn't the were-rabbit. It was an actual rabbit.
Did he also have a gnome?
Yes, that is true.
There's also a gnome.
because there was a gnome that was like, I think it was a sense. There was like some type, that has like a sensor, right? Sensing that, hey, there's an intruder in the backyard.
Yep.
And then like we get this, I want to say it felt like a superhero theme in the background, like as if Wallace and Gromit were superheroes for anti-pesto.
Yep.
And that's kind of pretty funny right there.
just like Batman and Robin.
Which one? I don't know which one he's talking about, but I don't know which one he's talking about, but I don't want to go deep into that.
No.
But anyway, so anyway, Wallace and Gromit driving the van, which is a really cool van that they actually have. So they went over to this garden, and Wallace and Gromit were able to capture the rabbit, who is stealing a pumpkin, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the neighbors all come out to, congratulate Wallace and Gromit for stopping the rabbit. But unfortunately, the rabbit almost ate the pumpkin. But he did take somebody's teeth.
Yep. Yeah, that old man's teeth.
Yep. To which he still has it to this day, because he gave a smile. The rabbit gave a smile to the neighbors, and it was like, and it's just so funny.
Yep.
So anyway, the next morning while Wallace and Gromit were eating breakfast, Gromit was providing Wallace a different kind of breakfast, because throughout this movie, Gromit's was trying to help Wallace go on this vegetable diet, right?
Yeah, he brought in vegetables.
Yeah, and at first, Wallace is not impressed by it at first.
Well, why he's not impressed?
Because he's more into cheese, right?
Which will make his teeth more toothy.
Right. But of course, I guess Wallace, I guess Gromit kind of found out that Wallace is a bit, overweight a little. I mean, well, not too much of an overweight, but like, he's gaining weight.
Yes.
And that's actually, and you come to find that out when he's trying to like go through the ceiling, right?
Oh, trying to put me on the diet with those vegetables, huh?
Yep. So then, like Wallace throws away the vegetables down the chute, where all the other rabbits are downstairs. Because keep in mind, they're anti-pesto. They capture a bunch of rabbits,
and then they also got a phone call from Lady Canpeno Totty Tottenham, who's being voiced by Helena Bonham Carter.
Yep, that is right. But actually, before that, you could also, in the beginning of the movie, you could definitely tell that Gromit is feeding the rabbits carrots, right?
Yes.
And some of the rabbits also invaded the kitchen as well.
What? Really?
Yeah, they invaded the kitchen as well. But anyway, even prior to that, even Wallace had his hand caught in a mousetrap.
Wait, what?
Wallace's hand got caught in a mousetrap for trying to, eat cheese.
Yeah.
That was when he was trying to like open the book up. There's like a secret stash of cheese, but Gromit was smart enough to put a mousetrap in there.
Oh.
Also, if you also notice too, is that some of the books almost reference other books in the titles, in the name of the title. Like one of them was How Green Was My Cheese or something, which is basically a reference to how green was my valley.
Ah. So this was a reference, right?
Yes. That was like a reference. Basically a playful reference to, how green was my valley, right? Which is actually a very clever reference. And I think there was another reference that kind of referenced Swiss Family Robinson. Get it? Swiss cheese? If you know what I'm saying? So anyway, just to move forward, so we get the call. So Wallace and Gromit get the call from Lady Tottenham, Helena Bonham Carter's character. So they go over to this huge mansion, and they're basically to, just just to, stop all the rabbits, right?
Also, for Lady Tottenham, she is a wealthy aristocratic spinster with a keen interest in vegetable horticulture and fluffy animals.
Well, that's actually true because she loves the rabbits.
She loves it. And for 517 years, the Tottenham family has hosted an annual vegetable competition on their estate on the same night. Lady Tottington asked Wallace to call her Toddy, which is a British term for an aristocratic and attractive woman, and develops a romantic interest in him.
Yep. Plus, the winner of the competition at the um, at the giant vegetable competition will win the Golden Carrot Award. Also, did you also notice that the film's title was originally going to be called Wallace and Gromit: The Great Vegetable Plot?
The Great Vegetable Plot?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, that was actually going to be the film's original title. But I think the Were Rabbit is a better title.
Yeah.
It's a better title in my opinion. And funny enough, is often referred to the film as the world's first vegetarian horror film.
Really?
Yep. I mean, even though but this is basically more focused on the Were Rabbit, hence the title of the movie.
Yep.
Because the market research disliked it. And Entertainment Weekly referred to the film as Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit in July of 2003.
Ah.
You know what? I like renaming the title. They renamed the title, so it sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
Curse of the Were-Rabbit. That sounds better.
It does.
Like it sounds a lot better. Come to think of it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so basically at Lady Tottenham's mansion.
Could be a mansion or something.
Right. So anyway, they're at this mansion, and of course, the Wallace Gromit used the Bunvac 6000, which Wallace uses his latest invention, the mind manipulation omatic, to brainwash them all into disliking vegetables, allowing them to run freely without harming everyone's gardens. Well, actually, prior to that, Victor Codoman is there.
Yes.
He was going to shoot down one of the bunnies. And Victor Codoman is being voiced by Ralph Fiennes, while Wallace is being played by Peter Sallis.
By the way, Ralph Fiennes this is actually his second voice role overall.
Right, because he played Ramses in the Prince of Egypt movie.
In that same year, he would play Lord Voldemort in the fourth installment of the Harry Potter film series, which is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
That is true.
And Lord Victor Codoman, a cruel upper-class bounder and a prideful hunter who is courting Lady Tottington for her fortune. He wears a toupee and
despises Wallace and
Gromit.
Plus, he's got a dog named Philip.
Philip is Victor's vicious but cowardly, dim-witted hunting dog who resembles a bull terrier. He is too cowardly to face the were-rabbit, so he instead targets Gromit.
But of course, yeah, but Victor Codoman gets sucked into Wallace's invention.
Does he really want to kill all the rabbits?
From the looks of Victor Codoman, yeah.
Oh boy, that's not good.
That is not good at all.
That's obviously a red flag right up there.
What's also funny too is that his toupee got stuck in the machine.
Yep, and he also said this: "I want my toupee."
And I kind of find it funny how I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, we take a cash check." No, my hairpiece. It's inside your invention.
Can I also say it's a wig or something?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a wig, but it's still a toupee.
But Victor Codoman accidentally took the black rabbit.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because if you also, to anybody who's seen this movie, if you pay attention when Victor was trying to get his toupee. Now the color of his toupee is black, by the way, and if you thought he was able to get his toupee back, Well, he kind of did later on in the movie, but what he got was a black bunny. He actually ended up getting a black bunny, and if you look closely inside the trap, there is a black bunny, but Victor Quartermain doesn't even notice it. But all the other bunnies do.
Yeah, and all the bunnies were kind of pointing, trying to give Victor Quartermain's attention.
But they waved goodbye.
Yeah, so is the black bunny.
I guess you could say because he thought it was his toupee, right?
Nope.
It's not,
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
but I'll be honest though. Helen Bonham Carter and Ralph Fiennes both did a very good job voicing their characters.
Yep, they sure do. Now, of course, one evening after capturing all the rabbits, Wallace used one rabbit to, use his invention to brainwash the bunnies into disliking vegetables. He tested on one, and for the most part, it went out pretty well.
I'm pretty sure he mentioned Wensleydale.
He probably did, but of course, Wallace accidentally changes the setting of the bun vac, and his brain is fused with a rabbit, forcing Gromit to destroy the machine. The transfer appears to have worked as the rabbit shows no interest in vegetables, and they named the rabbit Hutch.
Hutch.
Yep, and placed him in a cage.
And of course, Salas also provides the voice of Hutch, a kidnapped rabbit who gradually develops Wallace's mannerisms. His dialogue consists almost entirely of phrases and statements previously made by Wallace. After the attempted mind alteration goes wrong, and who is at first suspect to be the were-rabbit, Salas's voice was digitally accelerated to create that of Hutch's.
Oh, that is interesting right there. Now, anyway, later that night, a giant monstrous rabbit devours many people's vegetables, and the duo fails to respond. Plus, the giant rabbit um, broke into a church and ate most of the vegetables inside, and it really scared that one priest.
Well, he didn't hold up the crucifix. He held up the two cucumbers as a crucifix.
Yep.
Uh, Up until the were-rabbit birthed, and then you see the dragon window.
Right. I guess that dragon is a reference to Shrek, I believe.
Probably.
So anyway, the next day, the town is threatened by the were-rabbit, a giant rabbit-like monster which eats vegetables of any size. During a chaotic town meeting, which basically is almost a reference to the meeting from Jaws, Auntie Pesto enters into a rivalry with Tauntington's local fiance, Lord Victor Quartermain, who seeks to court Lady Tauntington.
And also, there's also putting into attention to detail, there were devil horns.
Oh yeah, that's right. And if you also pay attention to, there is a good attention to detail, like how Victor Quartermain, like there's like in the background, there's like devil horns coming out from his head. Basically, he's trying to like be more like an actual villain. He's trying to be more like an actual villain and kill all the rabbits in villainous fashion, while Lady Tottingham wants to resolve it in a peaceful manner, right? Which you see the angel wings behind her.
But there's only one question: who is the were-rabbit?
That is absolutely the big question of this movie. Who is the were-rabbit? We kind of know who he is, but we'll get to more of that pretty soon. But anyway,
there's also another character, the one of the officers.
Yes, there is a constable or an officer in this movie.
To which, funny enough, his character's head was very pointy, like a cone head.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, Wallace. Prior to that, Victor Cormay seeks to court Lady Tockington for her fortune, and who believes that it is better to rid of the pests via the use of guns than Auntie Pesto's humane business. Wallace, on the other hand, has developed a crush on Tottington, and she appreciates Auntie Pesto's humane methods as opposed to Victor's animal cruelty skills.
So I believe the anti-pesto probably works out better than than Quartermain's, right?
For the most part, yes. But anyway, Victor wants to capture the were-rabbit and to win Lady Tonnington's heart. After the first night of the were-rabbit, the townsfolk start to argue about what to do. Yet, with Lady Tonnington's persuasion, the townspeople agree the anti-pesto front the capture attempt.
So it had already begun.
Yes. So what Wallace Gromit did is they actually made a female were-rabbit, which is basically, a stuffed female were-rabbit.
Yes.
Which is basically, a mascot, right?
Even one of the people were surprised
Yeah. Yeah.
after smoking.
So anyway, yeah, Wallace is driving while Gromit is controlling the makeshift female were-rabbit,
Yeah.
doing all these, jazzy, groovy, jazzy like moves to get the
Yes.
were-rabbit's attention.
Yeah.
You do hear a bit of that jazz music in the background.
Oh, come on, Gromit. A bit more annoying.
Dun 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 dun.
Oh, that was a good music choice they had.
You could definitely tell Gromit's probably. You could definitely tell that Gromit was having some fun, but of course, all fun. But of course, the fun didn't last until he gets knocked out.
Yes, same with the bunny, the
Yep.
giant bunny.
Yep. So then anyway, it turns out the giant were-rabbit shows up and Gromit chases after him.
After the moon came in.
Right, but Wallace didn't return.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to Wallace?
Well, apparently, well, it is hinted after the chase, but he does return after the chase, but Gromit chases the were-rabbit through town before getting dragged underground.
And this is actually a funny action sequence right there.
Right, because while that's going on, the rabbit's eating all the vegetables.
Yes, and I believe we were all laughing when we were little kids.
Yes, it was a funny chase sequence because Gromit crashes Gromit crashes the van underground while the rabbit is getting away, and the airbag goes out in Gromit's face.
and he actually smashed the wheel, saying, "Darn it!"
Yep. Airbag goes out in his face. So anyway, the next day, Gromit is back in the house until he notices something's up. He sees rabbit tracks.
Uh-oh.
Yep, he sees rabbit tracks inside Wallace's house on West Wallaby Street. So he knows something's up, but he sees Wallace inside the house getting all these phone calls about people talking about all their vegetables being eaten by the were-rabbit.
Well, I'm pretty sure this is not the first time something that has been stolen or has done or broken something. Vengeance Most Foul did the same thing too.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
time with the robot gnomes.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, moving forward after a hectic nighttime chase and a series of clues, Wallace and Gromit come to theory that Hutch is the were-rabbit. Wallace is overjoyed, however, because this technically means he has already captured the beast, and cheerfully goes to inform Lady Tonnington. Gromit secures Hutch to make sure that he does not escape, but is confused to find a continuing trail of were-rabbit footprints that follow up the stairs. Tracing the footprints, Gromit is unnerved to see the rabbit footprints gradually morph into human footprints that they lead into Wallace's bedroom.
He also talks.
The rabbit Hutch talks. So upon further investigation, Gromit instead discovers that the were-rabbit is, in fact, Wallace. after discovering a pile of devoured vegetables in his bed, who is apparently suffering from the effects of the accident with the mind manipulation omatic having caused him and Hutch to each take on aspects of each other.
This is like a Freaky Friday moment.
I guess you could say that. So anyway, Hutch has gained Wallace's entire personality, such as his liking for cheese displays Wallace's knack for inventions and regularly repeats some of Wallace's old phrases, like this: "I love a bit of gorgonzola."
Or how about this?
Lovely cheese, Gromit. Yep. Plus, Hutch likes to invent, mostly. Or something like this: "Lovely food for rabbits, that is." Because Wallace actually said this in the beginning of the movie about the vegetables. Lovely food for rabbits, that is. So anyway, Gromit follows Wallace, retrieves him before the sun sets, and when driving home, Victor corners Wallace during the night by a tree, right? There's a giant tree on the road, right?
Yep.
So then, Victor was going to challenge Wallace to a Queensberry boxing match.
I don't think Wallace ever fights someone before.
Not when he's in rabbit form. Yeah, yep. So it turns out Wallace is indeed the were-rabbit.
So the transformation. Don't forget about the transformation.
Yes, we get the transformation because after Victor throws a punch at Wallace, Wallace throws him to the car.
I mean, this transformation reminds me of the Wolfman.
That's the whole point of that transformation. It reminds you of the Wolfman.
I mean, it's so scary.
I mean, it's scary. Yeah, it is scary, but at the very end, the transformation. I mean, it is. The overall rabbit is pretty cute.
I mean, is this a kids movie?
Well, it is a family film.
Right.
So after the transformation, even Victor Codoman was scared, including his dog
Philip.
Philip. They were they were both scared, but Philip was being a coward.
Yeah, he is a coward.
And they were both scared of seeing of seeing Wallace turned into a rabbit.
Even Philip wants to get inside the van, but Gromit was like,
And then after the final transformation, Wallace howls like a wolf, right?
Yeah.
And signals all the other rabbits who also howled too.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, it's a call.
Yep. And he also stomps so fast.
Right? Right. So then, anyway, so Victor gets an idea of how to handle the were rabbit. So he goes to see the priest at the church, and his name is Reverend Clement Hedges, being voiced by Nicholas Smith, to gain access to 24 karat gold bullets, which are supposed to be the only things capable of killing a were-rabbit for good. Which is like, the silver bullet that kills a werewolf.
Yep.
But now it's gold bullets.
Gold bullets?
Gold 24 karat bullets. And he gets 3 of them.
And another one is a trophy.
Right, and the other one was a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the following morning, the day finally arrives for the vegetable competition. Gromit reveals to Wallace that the experiment has swapped his and Hutch's personalities. The latter now carries his human traits and is the only one who can fix the Mind-O-Matic. Lady Tottenham reluctantly bows to public pressure to sanction Victor's offer to shoot the were-rabbit. And when she goes to Wallace to inform him, he begins to transform and is left with no choice but to send her away to prevent her from learning the truth.
Oh boy.
Victor soon bursts through the door of the house armed with the 3 gold bullets, but Gromit is one step ahead of him, using a rabbit costume, which is the female were-rabbit, by the way,
Yeah.
that he and Wallace had created as a trap prior to the discovery of the were-rabbit's true identity. However, Gromit's plan is foiled when Victor mistakenly fires upon what he believes to be the were-rabbit, instead discovering it to be Gromit in disguise. Realizing that Wallace is marching towards the competition, Victor and his dog Philip imprison Gromit in an anti-pesto cage. Gromit subsequently escapes with the help from Hutch and decides to make a sacrifice by using the marrow he had been growing for the competition as bait for Wallace, who in his rabbit form has burst upon the vegetable contest, causing panic among the townspeople.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, the marrow cannot keep Wallace's attention as Victor tries to take the Golden Carrot award from a distressed Lady Tottington, as it is the only golden bullet-like object left to him after he exhausted the gold bullets provided by the priest. But of course, like he takes the Golden Carrot,
Even though
and the van crashes into a cheese tent.
oh, first of all, they thought the were rabbit was killed, and this priest, the priest and everyone else are have mourned for the loss, claiming that the were rabbit is dead. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Nope, the were-rabbit's still alive.
And what's funny enough, they actually cheered.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
But anyway, the were-rabbit is back in action, comes up behind Victor and Lady Tottington, and
Yeah.
and of course Victor is trying to take the Golden Carrot, and he tells Tottington, no, the Golden Carrot belongs to the were-rabbit. Because get it, rabbits like carrots, right?
Yes, and
But this is not that type of carrot, though.
no, and he actually smashed the Victor's head.
Yes,
In fact-
which broke the toupee.
Yeah, that's very funny. And he brought in and he takes Lady Tottingham away too, claiming that Lady Tottingham was a carrot.
Right, but also on top of that too, we do get a King Kong reference as well when the Rare Rabbit was climbing on top of the Tonnington mansion,
Yeah.
and he's kind of pounding. He did pound his chest like King Kong, right?
Yeah.
So when he got to the top of the mansion, he howls again and alerts all the other rabbits too.
And not to mention the rare rabbit that stepped on the pedestrian with a Wilhelm scream.
Yep, that is true. So anyway, Lady Tottingham comes to realize that the were-rabbit is in fact Wallace.
Because Wallace moves his hands like this.
Yeah, he moved his hands around because he did something similar when I guess he was on a date with Tonnington at the mansion.
Probably.
I think because I think somewhere in the middle of the movie he went on a date
Yeah.
with Tonnington just to check out, the garden inside the mansion.
Also, Victor's hair was covered with cotton candy.
Because the were-rabbit knocked him down into a cotton candy machine.
And then he came back up in the garden area and he said this: Get your filthy hands off my future fiance, you big brute.
Yep. But unfortunately, he spilled the beans when Toddington realized that Victor knew that it was Wallace all along as the were-rabbit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But unfortunately, Victor, full of pride, wants to kill the were-rabbit.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So Toddington pepper sprays Victor Codoman, but unfortunately, Codoman, used a pitchfork and kind of traps Toddington on a what looks to be a marrow.
Yeah.
Through her hair, by the way.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Huh. I like your hair better than the other one. Or something like that.
But anyway,
And of course,
and of course, Victor is on the hunt now.
you can hop, but you cannot hide. Pesto.
So then we get to Gromit, who is basically, in a in a toy biplane, who is flying to rescue
Wallace.
Wallace, but unfortunately he's being chased by Philip, who's also on a toy biplane.
This is a dogfight sequence.
Yes, yes, this is a dogfight sequence.
Just like Top Gun.
Uh-huh. But anyway, yeah. It's a funny chase. It's a funny chase sequence.
Yes,
And
and Philip bumped Victor.
yeah, Philip bumped Victor, and Victor's like stupid interfering mutt. So anyway, while the chase is going on top of the roof of Tonnington Hall, Gorman's toy biplane circles Wallace, who clings onto the flagpole at the top of the building, unable to move because of the angry mob forming beneath. And
of course,
Wallace accidentally knocks over
a stone
a stone pot
a
from
stone pot.
a stone pot from the roof, and and I believe the police and the police officer was like, "Stand back! There might be a large rabbit dropping."
What really adds in to this fight sequence is obviously the musical score.
Oh yeah, yep. The musical score, it's basically it's a nice little it's a fun sequence. Like,
Yeah,
and the music score, like you hear the piano solo in the background a little bit,
including the violins.
right? Right. It was Philip and Gromit are basically, they're basically on one toy biplane because apparently one of the toy biplanes crashed with an explosion.
Oh my goodness.
And Philip tries to choke Gromit with a shovel.
Yeah.
And until the biplane runs out of gas, or coins, I should say.
Yeah, and Grumman was looking for more coins to put in.
And I'm just like,
I mean, come on.
it's the toy biplane.
Oh my goodness.
It's just so funny that he needs coins to continue the fight on this biplane. Like, the fight stops immediately. And Gorman tries to find the coins, but Philip helps out,
Yeah.
which
But-
he does.
And then he found a coin and puts it in, and
The fight resumes until there is a trap door under the biplane, and Philip falls on top of an inflatable falls on top of an inflatable house.
yep, up until it deflated.
Yep. So then now it's just Victor and Wallace who are on top, and Victor was about to shoot the were-rabbit, and he says, "Eat carrot, hey boy."
Then you also got blink and you'll miss it moments of Feathers McGraw.
That's right, because when before Victor fires the golden carrot, Feathers McGraw pops up in one of the stone pots on top of Lady Toddington's mansion, and he's basically there. He's basically, hiding out.
Yeah, seeking revenge.
Yep. So then Victor fires the bullet, and the bullet comes flying in slow motion like the Matrix, but Grumman was faster, and he's able to, take the bullet, right, with his plane.
Yep.
And the were-rabbit cheered. So anyway, all the rabbits cheered, by the way, because that was the last bullet that he had.
Yep.
But apparently, the plane was about to descend, so Wallace saves Gromit, and the two fall into a cheese tent below, yet mortally wounding Wallace.
Ouch.
Victor gloats, and he's basically like, "No one beats Codoman."
Then Lady Todian pops up. She says, "Is that so?" With a giant carrot, and hits Victor Codoman in the head.
And of course, Victor basically, falls into the tent too, where Wallace lies unconscious and seemingly dying of his injuries. And to protect Wallace from the angry mob outside, Gromit dresses Victor as the were-rabbit, using the using the same female were-rabbit from before, and throws him out of the tent. The mob that's coming in kind of references to Frankenstein when the mob chases Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That's kind of like it, right?
And Victor was calling Philip.
Right. Philip, believing Victor to be the beast, bites his master, and the angry mob chases Victor away.
And that's the end of Victor.
Yep, that's the end of Victor. Well, let's see how he likes it.
Well, that's what he gets. That's what he gets. He deserves it.
Well, that's what he gets for being cruel to animals, huh?
Yep, that's basically karma right there for Victor. He got what he wanted.
Right. So Grumman and Tonnington tend to Wallace, who seconds later seemingly passes away and morphs back into his human form. Gromit, the rabbits, and Tonnington are saddened by their loss, but Gromit is able to revive Wallace with a slice of stinking bishop cheese, because Gromit sees Hutch eating cheese.
Lovely cheese,
Gromit! Oh, don't forget the crackers. So Gromit takes a slice of cheese up to Wallace's nose. He smells it, and Wallace is like,
cheese? Oh! He tastes the cheese and says, cheese! It's me again!
Gromit, you clever lad! And of course, all the bunnies cheered, including Lady Tonnington, who who sees Wallace, and of course Wallace has to cover himself up with a box because
he's naked.
Yes, he's naked. Yes, but he was able to use a box.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Lady Tonnington awards the golden carrot to Gromit.
Actually, the golden carrot is damaged,
but it still works.
Yep.
And then Lady Tonnington turns Tonnington Hall's front garden into a wildlife refuge where Hutch and the rest of the rabbits can live in peace. And of course, this is where the relationship for Wallace and Tonnington begin.
Yep.
And of course, the final line from this movie comes from the bunny Hutch, who says, "Cheese!"
And that's the end.
Yeah, so there you have it. Yeah, that's the end of the movie. I'll be honest, I like this movie.
Same here. I actually love this movie.
I do like how it connects to the horror film genre, especially the Hammer productions, right?
Yeah, referencing Universal monster films.
Right, like Wolfman, most notably the Wolfman,
including Frankenstein, where you got the angry mob.
Right. But mostly Wolfman, because were-rabbit, werewolf.
Yeah. I'll be honest, the claymation really holds up to this day.
Oh yes, the claymation really holds up to this day. And it literally deserves that Oscar.
Yes, this movie deserved that Oscar. That is a well-deserved Oscar win for Wallace Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Now, the overall story, the characters, the acting, music, it is really good. Even the animation, you gotta give the animation props too.
But it is sad that this movie did not do well in the box office in the US.
At least in the US, but it did pretty well overall worldwide.
Yep. And of course, until Flushed Away came in 2006, which also became another box office bomb. This was the final DreamWorks animated film to collaborate with Armand after the box office disaster of Flushed Away.
Right. But
in 2006.
But then later on down the line, after Curse of the Were-Rabbit, we did get another Wallace Gromit short, which is A Matter of Loaf and Death.
Which is the last Wallace Gromit short film.
Up until Wallace Gromit's Vengeance Most Foul,
where we get to see Feathers McGraw once more.
Yep.
And the voice cast, I believe the heavy hitters are basically Helena Bonham Carter and Ralph Fiennes.
They're basically the heavy hitters in this movie for the Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
They both did a fantastic job lending their voices.
Yep. But other than that, I think overall the film itself, the story, the characters, the acting, Wallace and Gromit themselves, they're basically good.
But the claymation still works.
Oh yeah, everything in this movie was really good.
It's not an easy task to do for stop motion animation,
It's not easy, but Nick Park was able to get it done.
but it later improved over time.
Yep.
But I recommend everyone should see this.
Yeah, I believe everyone should check this out.
This is obviously a film that you can go back and watch,
Mm-hmm.
even 20 years later.
Yep. But anyway, that's about it for this breakdown. So there you have it, folks. That is our take on the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit movie. So, to anybody who is listening, what did you guys think of Wallace and Gromit The Curse of the Were-Rabbit? Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? Have you seen this movie? Does this movie hold up 20 years later? I would love to hear your thoughts.
I would say it still holds up to this day, 20 years later.
I agree. So, anyway, Mike, thank you for joining me on this episode.
Yeah, no problem, especially for Codo Cinema Horror Month. It's my third, especially my fourth time doing an episode for Codo Cinema Horror Month. Overall in this episode.
Yep.
What would you rank this?
Give it a 9 out of 10.
Same here.
Yeah, for what they presented in this movie, I really enjoyed. The story, the animation, the characters, the music, just the overall fun of it all. And the idea of a rare rabbit, I believe that is awesome.
It is awesome.
But anyway, that will be a wrap for this episode. Plus, this concludes Codo Cinema Horror Month. To anybody who's listening, I hope you enjoyed another year of Codo Cinema Horror Month for the month of October. So, to anybody who is listening, happy Halloween to everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. And of course, until next time, thank you all for tuning into Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman.
And I'm Mike Codo.
Remember to watch movies and stay positive. And happy Halloween.
And of course, good night until next week.